And do you think you'll be able to come up? I know you're just one vote, but do you think you guys will be able to come up with something to replace it?
So no, I didn't say we would replace. I've not said that. So what we will be doing is trying to make the current system work better, because it's not working now. We're spending way too much money for what we're getting back.
So you want to fix the current?
We want to make it work better, because you can't. The cost, if you look at the charts and the graphs of the cost of Obamacare, it is through the roof. So we've got to address this. We have to. There's an old saying from a famous economist: if it can't go on, it will end. And this cannot go on. We're spending way too much money in this space. How do we appropriately address it to, as I said before, lower costs, better care? That's our goal.
Do you expect people to pay more for their premiums, or is it just too early to say?
The studies show right now that the signups for Obamacare are actually running ahead right now this year than last year, even though the cost is going to be higher as this one subsidy expires. It's surprising a lot of people, but if I were to take a wild guess, I'm not sure that will continue. And what that will mean is people will fall out of that program and either, in all probability, end up without insurance, and they'll end up at the emergency room for care, or going to our federal clinics that we have here that provide, in quotes, free care. It's not free because the federal government pays for the clinics, but that's what we should see begin to happen, and we need to know that this is going to happen and figure out how to address it. And so, again, like I was saying, we've got to identify where we're not spending money appropriately, and figure out either how to reduce costs in that space or how to redirect the money so it's spent appropriately.
Okay. And in terms of next year, I mean, obviously that's going to be a big task for you guys. What else is your office focused on going into the new year?
So one thing that we need to remember is that we've made some significant changes to SNAP and to Medicaid, and so the main change is that the polling indicated that about 88% of Republicans, about 51% of Democrats wanted us to impose a work requirement for that if you are able-bodied and not providing care to a dependent, and there's other exceptions, then you need to work in order to a certain number of hours in order to remain eligible for Medicaid and for SNAP food stamp benefits. The challenge for us is to recognize that the people who have not been working, there's a reason they're not working. Maybe they have a drug or alcohol problem, but they're still able-bodied, but maybe they have that kind of a problem. Or they have some other reason that they haven't been working. I decided I would try to figure out how many people were going to be affected by this work requirement in the state of Oregon. The number is about 65,000. It's about 500, if you divide it by my 20 counties, which is horribly rough, 550 people per county. It'll be more here in Deschutes County because there's more people here than that. But if we divided our share of that 65,000, it'd be about 500 people, 550. Okay, what can we do to help those 550 people find some sort of either employment or volunteering or going to school? Those are the three things that you do if you want to remain eligible. What can we do? The first question would be, how much do they have to work? And the answer appears to be about 9 hours a week. 9 hours a week. That, compared to what you do here, and 9 hours is a pretty modest number, but it's about 2 hours a day. So who can we turn to try to help these 500 people, or it's going to be more in Deschutes County, but who do they turn to go find something to do, either volunteering or working or studying? Who? Well, I believe the county should have something to say. When I met with the hospital yesterday, St. Charles, right here, I said, what are you guys doing? Because to keep those people covered by Medicaid is a really good idea. So how can the hospital help direct them toward this 2 hours per day requirement? And the same is true for food stamps or SNAP. What can food banks and others do to direct these people toward these kinds of necessity now, because that's what the law says. Now that's what I've been working on. The numbers I'm sharing with you and the concepts, these are mine. I didn't get them from somebody. That's what I spend my time doing, trying to figure out how, when I go to meet with county commissioners, I can say something that helps address some of the consequences of laws I've helped pass.
I see. So you support work requirements, and now you're trying to figure out how we get these people employed.
Employed or volunteering or studying, one of those three. And most of the people, I'm going to take a wild guess and say volunteering is going to be the most likely scenario. So they'd volunteer somewhere for 2 hours a day, a week. They're covered.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did hear about going back to the work requirements of, food benefits is that, say, like you live in rural Crook County or Malheur County, you could be a couple hours away from any sort of organization, institution, workplace. So how do you kind of navigate someone who lives in a really rural area that now, I mean, you said 2 hours a day, it's not that much, but what if you don't live near, an office or school, and is that what you're trying to figure out right now?
Well, I'm probably as familiar with anybody as with that space, since I grew up on a ranch about as close to the edge of nowhere as you can get. It was down near, it was 60 miles from McDermott, Nevada. That was the closest town. Okay, so you're right. But you don't see too many people out there not working. That would not be. They're out there and they're doing something in the community. In fact, that's why the number for all of Oregon, remember, 65,000 people is what the estimate is that fit into this space. And so the numbers that we're talking about are extraordinarily modest. Like I said, about 500 people per county if we did the very, very rough. I think it'll be less for Malheur County. There's only about 33,000 people in it. I live there. And so my guess is that arrangements can be made for those people. And if they can't, then we better figure out a way to help. That's what I'm busy saying. Because I don't think this should be placed squarely upon those that now have to work. The rest of us have to step up and say, yeah, we've said you need to work or volunteer, and let's make sure there's an avenue for them to do that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I know you probably, is there a time you guys got to get out of here? It's 9:50 now. I'm sure you got to get going.
Couple more minutes.
Yeah. Well, let me just open it up. Anything you want to talk about, go over? I mean, we talked a lot about last year and then looking ahead, but just anything I didn't ask, anything you want to talk about more?
Well, I don't represent the Bend area any longer, but I still have about, I want to say 16,000 people in Deschutes County, and then of course Jefferson County I have, and most of Crook County is in my district. And I just want those listening to know how much I appreciate their support in giving me the opportunity to serve in Congress. It's a great opportunity, and I've been so happy to be able to help, whether it's with the secure rural schools or whether the Wolf Bill or whether transferring land like up in the Dalles area. We took 150 acres and moved it from the million acres of federal forest over to the city of the Dalles. These kind of things are all helping my communities, and I'm just so happy to have the opportunity